Crossovers and video game tie-ins serve as a sort of time capsule for the state of the comics and the characters at that time. For example, Iron Man wasn't in 1997's Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter, nor 1998's Marvel vs. Capcom, despite having been in the game the Marvel sprites originated from, possibly because this was that weird Iron Man is evil, then dead, then a teenager period that everyone hated. Tony was in MVC2, but then that was because they brought everyone back. He was then one of the first 6 characters revealed for 2011's MVC3, which released post Iron Man 2 in the lead up to the Avengers. And MVC Infinite positioned him as the Marvel poster boy opposite Street Fighter's Ryu, because the game released the same year as Infinity War, the start of the MCU's big climax, by which point Iron Man was a household name. Spider-Verse stories likewise serve as time capsules of the states of Spidey and multiverse stories at that time. That's an observation I hope you'll keep in mind as you follow the other stories in this series, because that's what makes Spider-Wars so fascinating when placed alongside the others. This is not second verse same as the first, this one is truly unique. Quick backstory, Fox's Spider-Man cartoon ran from 1994 to 1998. In the penultimate arc, Spidey led an all-star team of heroes he'd met over the years in an adaptation of Secret Wars. No, the other one. This victory proved him worthy to lead another team in a higher stakes plan to save the multiverse itself. Thus, Madam Web and the Beyonder gather an alliance of Spider-Men from across the multiverse for R. Peter to lead on a mission to save all of reality. What's unique about this one is its roster. Nowadays, you'll rarely see a Spider-Verse story without Miles Morales, Gwen Stacy, Miguel O'Hara, Noir Peter, etc. But almost none of those characters existed back in 1997. Back then, the most unique alternate Spider-Man outside of 2099 and 2211 was probably Fantastic Five Spidey from What If number 1. I'm not sure why Miguel and Max were left out, but the show didn't have much to draw from in the comics otherwise, forcing it to get creative. The story's antagonist is Spider Carnage, a version of Spidey who went mad from the Clone Saga, leaving him unsure if he was the original or the clone, bonding with the Carnage symbiote and plotting to destroy reality. This leaves Ben Reilly to join Spidey to stop him. This was a clever way to adapt elements of the Clone Saga that had been left out by the show's previous, very unique, absolutely heartbreaking take on the Clone Saga. It also serves as a commentary on the madness induced by trying to follow that story in the comics. And given that R. Spidey's goal is to find the real MJ after the whole clone business, it's fitting that his final task before he can find the real MJ is to help another Spider-Man with his clone troubles. Another of the Spideys is a show-centric what-if character, a Spidey who never managed to rid himself of the Man-Spider mutations, giving him a unique look from the rest, and letting him serve as a ticking time bomb that the team will likely need to deal with at some point, as well as highlighting one of our Spidey's seemingly smaller but no less significant successes from earlier in the show through contrast. Combined with the clone stuff, the symbiotes and the goblins, this arc feels like a microcosm of the show itself, confronting Spidey with his past one final time before he can move forward. The others are less show-specific what-ifs, but are certainly interesting to view in retrospect. One Spidey stole Doc Ock's tentacles, likely just for that 8-arm style, but given the proliferation of Spidey suits with mechanical arms, as well as Otto's tenure as the superior Spider-Man, himself now a fixture of Spider-Verse stories, this is quite interesting. And is that him over there in the background of Spider-Verse? It may well be. Then we have one in the original Spider armour, who is a rich business owner, serving as a prototype for the Parker Industries era and the modern Stark-based Iron Spider suits, along with his arrogance being a template for Otto's time as Spider-Man. And finally, we have an actor who plays him on TV, who I like to imagine is Spidey voice actor Christopher Daniel Barnes himself. His role is to be the guy whose value as a Spider-Man is doubted, only to then prove that anyone can wear the mask. Would you look at that? Another theme later stories would draw from and receive high praise for. See what I mean when I say this is a fascinating prototype for so many modern Spidey and Spider-Verse ideas? In fact, this was so early in multiverse crossovers that there wasn't even a precedence that counterparts could look and sound distinct. Be sure to check out Diego's coverage of that development after this. But for this story, all the Spideys are played by Barnes. As for the story itself, we begin with numerous scenarios that aren't currently possible in the main universe due to past stories, such as Norman Osborn's Green Goblin appearing as Spider Carnage's minion, Carnage's presence at all, and bizarro world scenarios like even the stalwart Robbie Robertson having turned against Spidey due to his counterpart's evil actions. Spider Carnage highlights the path Peter could have gone down without the right guidance, having lost both Uncle Ben and Aunt May, and then all the clone stuff, going mad even before bonding with the symbiote. And he gives Barnes a chance to go ham and show that he can do a range of Spideys, which we'll be seeing more of in future parts of this collaboration.
I'm gonna destroy all reality, even if I have to do it one dimension at a time.
While the story itself isn't really focused on the other Spideys, possibly suggesting some cuts to the episode count like that scene in Secret Wars, the story has some fun with the alternate realities idea before we wrap things up. And I love the conclusion of the story where Peter's final lesson, the culmination of all of his experiences across the series, is not to beat Spider-Carnage by fighting him, but by reasoning with him, giving him the help he needs by bringing along the man who taught him morality in all universes. And this allows even a Spidey who has gone so far off the deep end, lost his way so completely, to find those morals again and to make the ultimate sacrifice to save reality from himself. And having an Uncle Ben to tell our Peter he's proud of him is the real victory here. So much so that Peter confesses to Stan Lee that he wouldn't want to change anything about himself because he's finally content with his life. And considering he just visited a world where his counterpart is a billionaire celebrity, beloved by everyone, married and with Uncle Ben still alive, that's saying something. It's a real shame we never got that 6th season, but this is such a wonderful note to end on and makes this arguably the most complete Spider-Man show in terms of its overarching narrative. And Stan Lee commenting on the beauty of Madam Web and her calling him truly special since she was voiced by Stan's real wife Joan is just the sweetest thing and makes this objectively the best Stan Lee cameo of all time. Amazing, Silver Surfer, I love you, but this is just impossible to top.
Well, Stan, we all have to grow up sometime, I suppose.
Yeah, you tell Marvel editorial Spoderman. And that's Spider-Wars, the very first Spider-Verse. I think the most important takeaways in all of this are, these stories are fascinating to revisit in retrospect to observe what we can learn about the eras in which they were created, and who and what were the big focus of such stories at those times. Now is the time for an animated Spider-Verse that unites the Spideys from all the shows that ended without a true conclusion to finally give them closure. Which is basically all of them. Xavier and friends really are doing God's work, aren't they? And last, Spider-Man 2 would damn well better have a HD Spider-Carnage suit, I swear to God bro, I'm not going to accept being toyed with like this anymore. The design is metal as hell and I will not allow the industry to ignore it for 1 second. Oh, and be sure to check out the rest of this collaboration where some much more interesting guys will be stealing the show and leaving you less interested to come back to my channel. Could that be a metaphor for the next installment? I do believe it could be. If you liked this video, why not subscribe and support me on Patreon like these fine people here? If not, then make sure to share it with your enemies so they can suffer along with you. Today's recommended video is 90s Spider-Man cartoon, the original Spider-Verse, by Panels to Pixels. One guess why, eh?